Hi, welcome everyone. I'm here with Tyler Frick, who is the lead developer at Molerat Digital Art, introducing the brand new game, BangBang PewPew. It's the latest light gun game, kind of in the draw some inspiration from games like Point Blank, for example, right? What was the inspiration behind BangBang PewPew?
Well, I've always wanted to do a light gun shooter, and especially in the last couple of years, that there have been virtually no releases for home in that genre because there just weren't any good light guns available. But last year, our Sinden light gun finally came out and really improved the quality of light guns available at home that work with modern displays. And recently, the AE light gun has come out as well, and there's also gun for IR. So now there's plenty out there, but the games haven't really caught up, and the games have always kind of been stuck in the past. There have always been, rehashes of the old formulas. With Bang Bang Pew Pew, we wanted to try to take the genre in a little bit of a different direction and try some innovative new things, while also keeping some of the classic challenges in there.
Yeah, it definitely evolves. I've always been a fan. I mentioned Point Blank because it's one of my favorite Namco games going back in the day with the challenges, and it really is the next level evolution. I mean, anybody goes into this thinking this is, because Namco, the old game, some of those challenges were easy. And I was saying as we got into the call before we started rolling is that, it is challenging. There is
Oh yeah,
absolutely
and wait till you
replayability
get
in
to
it.
the last levels. The last levels, they're going to get even worse. It's going to be hard.
And what I
You'll
love about
sweat.
it too is you bring leaderboards in there. There's Steam achievements in it. Tell people watching how many challenges can they look forward to in the game?
There's 25 challenges, and then on top of that, there's different achievements that become unlockable. For example, if once you clear the score challenge in each level, which is sort of the easiest achievement for each level, and you go back and play it again, and lots of the levels, hidden targets will appear too that you have to hit while also trying to clear the challenge at the same time. So there's a lot of replayability there with the achievements and with the leaderboards, trying to get up to the top. And there's also hot seat multiplayer that adds some additional replayability for sitting around with your friends and passing the gun back and forth.
Up to four people.
Up to four, yeah.
Now, I know in one of the original stretch goals in the Kickstarter campaign, which I support, I'm a legendary hero supporter, was the mention about the possibility down the road of actual simultaneously multiplayer with two guns. Is that something that might be on the roadmap still down the line?
Yeah, we're definitely hoping to do it as one of our DLCs. It's not scheduled for release yet, but it's planned.
And as a matter of fact, you've actually announced there'll be 4 DLCs, right? The first one I think is the hunting DLC that will see sometime this year, right?
Yep, and also there's a horror themed DLC, and then the fourth one we haven't quite. We've got lots of ideas, and we're trying to pick out the best of the options we have available. So no details on that one yet.
Right. Well, the horror themed one, I guess it's fair enough to mention is, I played a small part in that. I created some additional content, wrote the story for it. So there'll be more details coming up for that, but that's slated right now for Halloween this year. I think it'll be something really cool for people to look forward to. That was a lot of fun to help collaborate and give you guys content to work on for that one. And I can't wait to see that come to fruition. I think that'll be a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to getting into the game.
Yeah, but the base game itself, I mean, like I said, before is a lot of replayability. I sat last night, I must have sat 2 hours plugging away, going through some of the first levels in the game, and I'm like, and the fun part about it is the leaderboard is to me, with any of these games now, right? We're retro games, and you're seeing Arcade One Up introduced on their cabinets, At Games has on the retro cabinets, but there are really no retro games out there or light gun games that have leaderboards. In fact, even some of the modern ones, there are no leaderboards in them. So the fact, that you could be competitive and try and beat, scores for people out there on a global network is fantastic. And I love the integration of the Steam achievements in there. Like I said, it really keeps you coming back for more in it. So let's talk a little bit more about the game in terms of some of the levels that people can look forward to. What are the types of variety of challenges you'll be able to see in the game?
Well, we've got 4 categories: accuracy, speed, judgment, and then scenarios. And scenarios is sort of a catch-all for stuff that just totally breaks the light gun shooter mold for the most part, and a few rail shooters as well. So the ones we're really looking forward to are the protect the runner level, where you have to
That's a
play an
fun
infinite
one.
runner game. So it's a bit of a platformer, but at the same time, you have to protect the runner using your light gun,
Yeah.
which is something that I haven't seen done before. Though it does very vaguely resemble a classic NES game. There's also the getaway, where you're in the third person view, pulled back behind a car that's trying to run away from chasing enemies, and you have to blow them up while also just protecting your car from mines that are planted along the way by the cars, and also by flying helicopter drones. So
Yeah.
there's quite a bit of variety in the scenario section.
I was cursing at the drones and and the infinite runner. I went every time they'll drop that mine just as I'm about to drop, just about to jump, and I'm trying to take aim and shoot it just as it lands, and I'll end up hitting it. I'm like, that's I think is probably one of my favorite challenges. I just keep coming back to that one. That's definitely one of my favorites. If you don't have a gun, you're not at a total loss. I mean, obviously the best way to play is with a gun, but you can play it with a mouse, mouse and keyboard, or mouse. What are some of the other platforms you're thinking about bringing this to in the future that you've been toying
Well, we
around
want to
with?
put it everywhere there's a high quality light gun. We want to have BangBang PewPew be available, which isn't a lot of systems right now. We'd love to do something like the arcade one-ups you mentioned, or getting it into actual arcades. Um, Another option is to do it in VR with things like Oculus Quest,
Right.
or some of the PC connected VR headsets, or the new PlayStation VR2 once it comes out. Yeah, there's lots of potential and options available.
I could definitely see this as a VR opportunity. In fact, one of my favorite games in VR is Operation Warcade. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to play that. And for
Yeah.
people that aren't familiar with it, is you literally walk up to a virtual cabinet. It's inspired by Operation Wolf, and you lean in and you shoot stuff in the cabinet. Playing in a virtual environment, and it's so much fun. I mean, that's just one opportunity, but one of the cool things about one of your levels is Take the Town, and I could see that completely in VR. That would play really well. I think in VR would be a lot of fun, but especially too if you think back to games like House of the Dead, an on-rail shooter. There's so much different types of variety. I mean, you have everything for the co-op stuff that you could do. I like the I'm going to call it the shuffleboard, but it's not shuffleboard. I'm only going to call it
Curling
the
actually.
curling. Yeah, curling. That one's another fun one too. And if you think it's easy, basically curling, and we'll show some video in this, is that you're firing at the stones, pushing them along on the board. It's not as easy as it looks to
Oh.
time it and get it in there. So that's a lot of fun. I was playing that with my wife, and of course she schooled me on that one, but and she barely plays the light gun games, and I'm like, wait a minute. But it's great because it's again, it's one of those things that makes it really nice and competitive. The fact that you can support up to 4 players, anywhere from 2 to 4 players, is fantastic.
Yeah, I really like the curling because it makes you it makes you think strategically, especially when you're playing in the mini game
Yeah.
mode. And it's one of those ones that really breaks the mold of just putting in as many credits as you can, and
Right.
trying to get through the levels. The judgment challenge, Clear the Platform, is a lot like that too, where you really have to think about where you're shooting and how many bullets you're using
Yeah.
as you try to knock pieces off of a platform.
See, it'd be great is if you end up doing eventually a simultaneous light gun shooter. Be really cool. A split screen. You do like an air hockey table.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
You could do some cool stuff, firing back and forth, trying to get the puck onto your opponent's side.
For
So
sure.
that would be pretty cool. So it's interesting. I find your background, right? You're an attorney as well, right? You
Yes.
do family law. So how did you get into video game development with your background? I saw at one point you went to university for computer science.
Yeah, I was a programmer first, and I went to law school planning to become a lawyer in the tech industry. I did that for a couple of years. Didn't enjoy it. It was uh, just not for me. So I've always kept my foot in the door in the technology area. I've been working as a consultant for years. Um, but yeah, once the pandemic came around, suddenly I had all the time in the world to get back to where my passion's at, which is gaming. So I was able to take the time to really get back into programming, doing the artwork and music and all of that, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, you started toying with the idea back in what 2010, I think is it right?
Yeah,
Was the
yeah, it
original
was way back in
concept using
2010.
Wiimotes?
Yeah, Yeah, back then though, I just found that the quality of the light guns available at home just wasn't
Right.
up to par. Like it really, until the gunfoot IR incident came around, there really wasn't anything at home compared to the arcade experience. So it wasn't until then that I really thought, hey, now's the time. With the lockdowns last year, there was a real resurgence in arcade games coming home. Like there were a lot of arcade companies have been, like Arcade One Up you mentioned, for example, and the different custom builders out there have been putting out really high quality home arcade cabinets, which I think has led to a lot more interest in light guns.
Yeah, it really is it is an amazing thing. I mean, just how well these guns work. I mean, I play them all the time. I must have like over 200 different games now installed, that I'm
Yeah,
playing, everything from retro to modern classics. And it's just it's absolutely amazing. And for people that aren't familiar out there, definitely check it out. Gun for IR is one of my favorites, but you have the Sinden light gun. As I mentioned, there's the A light gun that's out there now. There's even a new one that's come along now that uses like laser targeting that just came onto the market. And I think we're going to start to see more and more of that. I mean, I personally would love to see the return back to consoles. And it's a shame that Sony sort of abandoned it because, the PlayStation 3 had such a variety of ones using the Move controller. It was great. I mean, you had House of the Dead 4. There was, you had a whole bunch of the Time Crisis games that were on it. And then it seemed like after that console was really right around the time that everything started to disappear for a while. And now,
exactly.
now this week, it's interesting too, is the first light gun on consoles to come out in some time is House of the Dead remake that comes out on the Switch.
Yeah,
So I'm curious to see how that'll do. I mean, I don't think it's gonna. I think it's gonna pale in comparison to games that are using a true light gun simply because it's using gyroscopics in their controller. But still the fact that they're popularizing a classic title trying to bring back light gun game is fantastic. Because that's just renewing an interest with a younger audience that may not have been exposed to some of these games in the past.
yeah. I really hope we see a comeback on the console systems. Maybe spurred on by that. There was a Xbox one
Yeah,
a couple of
short
years
or
back.
lived. Yeah.
Yeah, but it just didn't last. I've been trying to get my hands on one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
actually had it used a camera that sat in front of the TV and it was just so difficult. The controls were so horrible on it.
yeah,
It was not accurate. It's the same because the game, the zombie game they had that came with it, I think it was called Voyage of the Dead, was fantastic. And I'm like, well, why can't they bring this to another platform? Which is again why I'm kind of disappointed the House of the Dead remake is a Nintendo Switch exclusive. I'm hoping somehow the license runs out and we'll see that come to Steam, where you can play it with a real light gun.
that would be
Um,
amazing. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, we're due for a good House of the Dead game. I mean, you
yeah.
have Scarlet Dawn is in arcades now, and who knows if that'll ever be ported to home version. It seems like they've kind of been abandoned, on the wayside. But so it's great to see that they are being popularized on some kind of form of console. And it's great to see that you're doing Bang Bang Pew Pew because, like I said, there really hasn't been a game like this in years. So especially a game that you can really have a lot of fun with friends. That's what's really nice. It's very much a social game. You can play it, independently, but it's very much has that social element to it.
Definitely, it's all about competition.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, do you ever envision? I don't know whether or not this is something that would be doable, but do you ever envision the possibility of furthering some kind of online component to it? I mean, possibly, I guess if it went to VR, where there might be some kind of simultaneous co-op, through the
Yeah,
internet.
the um, the Steam version comes with I'm blanking on the name, but they have a sharing mode where you can actually play the hot seat mode online against people.
Oh wow.
And we do once we have some simultaneous multiplayer in there, we hope to be able to do that as well with the simultaneous multiplayer DLC.
That's
That's
pretty cool.
still in the early planning stages.
Wow. Wow. So what were some of the challenges in putting this together? I mean, one of the things that I would imagine would have to be somewhat tough to do is the physics in the game are great. I mean, there's one challenge where you're shooting, pushing back the balls, and you can see, how well the physics work, something we didn't have in some of these older retro games,
Yeah.
with challenges of this type. So, I mean, what kind of challenges did you face in trying to put this together?
Um, I think technically the most difficult one to put together was the getaway challenge, the driving challenge. Because there we have custom AI that figures out a way around the track. We have the track is generated every time you play, a new random track is generated, and the AI has to figure out a way around it. And there's a custom physics system in there as well that responds to the AI and how it's driving. And of course, all of the sound and music and everything are connected to that as well. Integrating with Steam was tough too, because we wanted to get it that's such an important aspect of the game. We have I believe somewhere in the range of 70 achievements in there already, with a few more to come after release. So that getting all of that dialed in was quite a bit of an effort. Yeah, I'd say those are the biggest challenges by far.
No kidding. That's pretty cool. Well, and then I know too, and I think I'd read somewhere, may have been in one of the Kickstarter updates, you talked about when you were developing the skeet shooting, you actually went to a real rifle course, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and that really taught me something that skeet shooting as games have been missing in the past, which is realistic physics. So in nearly all light gun shooters, you pull the trigger and not literally, but a laser comes out of your gun and instantly hits the target in front of you. That's not how skeet shooting works. One of the hardest parts of skeet shooting is knowing how to properly lead your targets. So in the advanced skeet shooting challenge we call ballistic skeet, you actually have to lead your target, and we simulate the flight of bullets through the air. We do a similar thing with sniping in the ballistic sniping challenge, and that one's really tough. When you're shooting at the targets up close, you can of course treat it like any other light gun game, just point and click. But when you're shooting at targets that are 120 meters away, it's, I don't know what that'd be, 130, 140 yards for the Americans. There you have to actually take into account how fast the targets are moving and how far the bullet's going to drop before it reaches the target, and it makes for a lot more challenge.
Wow, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. So I mean, what are some of the other things that people can look forward to that we might have talked about? We talked about future DLC things you're working on, or any other things you want to talk about, or is it too early to kind of tease some other features that might be coming?
Yeah, I have so many ideas for the DLC, and there's been so many things that the artists and I have been working on that it's I don't want to commit us to anything right now, because those arguments and debates are still going on long into the night. Once we have a firmer feature list and we really know what direction we're heading, I'll be in a position to talk about that a little bit more.
Now, would these be paid DLC or free DLC that adds on to the game?
There's going to be a mix. We'd like to do challenge events. So every couple of weeks, a new variation on one of the existing challenges would come out as a free DLC.
Oh, that's cool.
That would only be available with a special limited time leaderboard, say over a weekend or something along those lines. And then the other DLCs, like the simultaneous multiplayer and the I think the plan for the simultaneous, let me back up, the simultaneous multiplayer, we're going to do two parts to it. There's going to be the adding of the simultaneous multiplayer to the existing challenges, which will be a free DLC.
Right. And
then there will be a separate paid DLC where you have challenges that are made purely for simultaneous multiplayer. So things like being able to sabotage your enemy side, your opponent's side of the screen, essentially, is what I'm talking about.
That's cool. That's cool.
The details will come further on down the road once we get a bit deeper into developing that one.
That makes me think of there, I think there were a couple of modes in like the Tetris co-op. The better you perform, it starts sabotaging your opponent's side. That's actually really cool. That's a clever idea. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah, no, that sounds fantastic. I definitely a lot to look forward to, and of course, the more people that support the game, the more opportunities to keep adding on expansions for it. So, definitely want to check it out. I think people are going to find they're in for quite a treat with it, with the variety of challenges that's in the game. And just, the first thing I saw too is what really struck me is that, when you think about it, a lot of people are always thinking, okay, these AAA titles, things like that, the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars or, or more that goes into developing these games. What's interesting about it is, I did the math today in US dollars for the Kickstarter. I think it was a little over $8,000. And when you look at this game, I mean, it's so well polished and so well put together. And it's like, how do you do that on that kind of a budget? It's like it's actually really mind blowing. It's really a testament to your team's ingenuity to be able to pull this off. To me, I mean, look, I've done movies. Now, obviously, not the same thing as programming a game, so I know on like no budget, that you have to really think outside the box. And I think you guys really brought it, and brought it to the table well with what the finished product turned
Yeah, I'm
out to
really
be.
impressed with the whole team.
Yeah, it's really a fun project, and fun product in general to play. So, but yeah, I definitely can't recommend it enough. And like I said, I'm happy that I was a Kickstarter supporter. The last game I actually supported came out. They didn't listen to the fans. The game failed miserably, and what I dig is the fact that from day one, you and your team have been so receptive to the ideas and what you've built on, and just watching the evolution from alpha to the beta to the finished release has been really, really cool, to see
Yeah,
the whole thing.
Our game wouldn't be here without the Kickstarter
Yeah.
backers. So we've done everything we can to make the game that they want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, the fact that you've been really listening to everybody and putting everything into, that the people have suggested that I've seen along the way, the game turned out to be just amazing. It's so much fun, and I can't wait for people to get their hands into it. So, and the game is coming out. Well, as of this recording, we're doing it a couple days, but it's coming out officially on April 9th, right?
Yep.
Perfect. And you'll be able to purchase it and download it from Steam. Has there been a price set on the game yet?
The price is, we're setting it about 30 Canadian, which is 24 something US.
Wow. That's a great price. That's a great price. And again, for especially with the replayability in it and what's coming down the pipe, I've got a little bit more insight, that we can't reveal yet, that you and I have discussed, fun things that, are definitely to look forward to for the game. So yeah, I appreciate your stopping by. We're going to show some video. I'm going to do a little bit of my own review and show off some gameplay too, after we hop off. And hopefully people enjoy what they see. Well, thanks
Great,
again,
thanks, Glenn.
Tyler.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Thanks again for joining us.
Good one.
Let's take a look at the options first in BangBang PewPew. You have your standard options. So you can adjust up to 4K resolution, your quality settings, and of course you can turn crosshairs on and off. In the previous game footage I showed throughout the interview, we had crosshairs on just for demonstration purposes. What I really like too is there is a colorblind mode, especially since some of the challenges have colors that are part of the challenge that you have to shoot at. And of course you can turn music on or off. Let's take a look at some of the challenges. Wow. Oh. Oh. This I found is one of the hardest challenges in the game. Really need some good timing. Oh, that's the best I've ever done so far. Okay. Object here is to clear them off of the surface as quickly as possible and as few shots as possible. Ah, it's all about hitting it in the right spot. Oh, did I get, a couple little lingering ones. Come on, get off there. Ah, come on. Get off. Ah, seriously? Come on. So much for using minimum bullets. Huh? Still scored 1,000 points. That's great. Final score 1852. Not bad. So with 25 challenges, multiplayer leaderboards, there's a lot to come back for. Like I keep saying over and over, replayability is where it's at with this game. I've really enjoyed it. I'm not saying that just because I'm a Kickstarter supporter, but I really, really enjoy Lightgun games. And this really brings back not only good vibes for some of the retro classics like Point Blank and Zero Point and Time Crisis and others like that, but it also offers something brand new. Definitely worth checking out. I'm really eager to see where this is going to go down the line, especially with its expansions. Stay tuned. There's going to be more great content coming down that we'll cover in the future as new expansions roll out for the game.